That's how we usually do it.
So
what we do is you'll introduce yourself, rate, name, etc., and then just start talking about your history here on the ship, what you did, when you came on, what you did, all that stuff, and hopefully some people join up and they might ask questions about anything related to whether what you did or just cool stories or whatever. So far we've had Len here, we had Mario here last week, Len Jablon, who was on the jersey, Mario Mares,
Jablon,
yeah, bigger guy.
He's more of a tours guy.
Yeah,
I know who it is.
Yeah. So we had him. We had Mario Mares here last week. Last week, right?
Yep, last week. And then yesterday we had Captain Mabley.
No, not yesterday. Thursday.
Thursday we had Captain.
Thursday.
Captain Mabley?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he sat down for a few minutes before he got called down for the general coming on. So.
Yeah, I got to talk to him. He's a pretty cool dude.
Yeah. But that's kind of what we do, and then we just have the game. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I usually bring my uniform out for that, but I was a bad boy this year. I enjoyed Christmas and New Year's too much. My uniform was a bit tight, so I figured rather than die of heat stress standing out there wrapped up in a wool blanket, I'd just leave it at home and just play in my coveralls here.
So no one's doing it, and we are early. We usually start at 3, but that's fine. We'll start early. Let me just get the ship started. And let's see. Give it another minute, and then we'll introduce you. But yeah, we just came up with this idea. We're kind of like, we have so many vets and just volunteers with cool stories. Might as well get them out there. Maybe get some new people interested in the ship and coming down here to visit us.
I did this at I'm on the board of directors at Iowa Veterans Association. Mm-hmm. So we one year our reunion was in Des Moines, and the state people did that. They interviewed as many of us as they could to get our story, especially the World War II guys and the Korean guys.
I'm hoping we get a couple of those on Saturday.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Alright, so let's get it started. We've been running for like 2 minutes. So introduce yourself, your rate, your name, and then we'll get started with how you joined the Navy and all that cool stuff.
We got both male and female on this thing?
On the stream, eventually, it could be anyone.
Hey guys and girls, my name's Martin Palmiere. I'm a retired chief electrician's mate, surface warfare specialist. I spent 5.5 years on the USS Iowa from 1983 to 1989. My naval career spans from 1975 to 1999. I worked in E Division while I was here. I was in charge of my division. Was in charge of all 8 generators, all 4 switchboards, make sure all the lights stayed on and all the motors ran, and everybody had their hotel services and were fat, dumb, and happy, including rack lights. Let's see. You guys want a little bit of sea stories, huh?
Yeah, whatever you want to talk about.
Whatever you're willing to tell us, we'll take it all.
Well, I can tell you something. No, I'm not going to go there.
Okay, the ones you're willing to talk about in public.
I can tell you some things and I have to kill you. No, I'm not going to go there. That's there's nothing all that classified here. Although we were required, whenever we were asked about nuclear weapons, the standard thing was, I can neither confirm nor deny the presence of nuclear weapons aboard USS Iowa. And for the most part, I never knew. We could have carried them. We were in the Persian Gulf actually one time, 1987 to 1988. We were escorting Kuwaiti tankers in and out of the Gulf. And we had an Iraqi missile lock on us one night. That was pretty interesting. General quarters for about 6 hours. Battle stations, for those of you folks that don't know what general quarters is. Once we we were running in what they called MCON Echo. MCON meaning emissions control. In other words, we had no radio, no radar. We were just basically running pretty much electronic signals silent. So once we detected the Iraqi missile lock, Captain ordered everything lit up. Once they saw what we were and who we were, their missile lock kind of went away real fast. I guess they didn't want to tangle with the big old battleship. So
Probably the better part of valor.
yeah, it was fun. Yeah, we were. You want to call it being in harm's way? I don't think we really going to have a problem. The best part of that cruise was, well, the worst part was we were already tied up in Marseille, France, when we got the call to sortie to make best possible time to the Suez Canal in transit and go to Diego Garcia. I really didn't particularly feel like leaving Marseille at the time because Marseille, France was one of my favorite ports to call. Great wine, great food. So we transited the Suez Canal, headed through the Indian Ocean to a little island archipelago called Diego Garcia to pick up special weapons. Don't ask me what the special weapons were. I don't know. I have no need to know. All I know is the USS Missouri dropped them off and we had to pick them up. On the way down, I got to meet King Neptune. We all crossed the line and became loyal shellbacks. That was fun. Still got my card. Still got my certificate. And then we went up on station in the Persian Gulf. Mainly we anchored off of Oman, Masira Island, and just waited for a stack of oil tankers to form up so we could escort them either in or out. So to kill the boredom, the Navy saw fit to bring a USO tour. Christmas, it was Bob Hope, Connie Stevens, Lee Greenwood, and Barbara Eden, I Dream of Jeannie. And then for New Year's, we got the Dallas Cowboy Cheerleaders. So that wasn't too bad. The carrier got to go to Australia. This is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Detail.
I'm doing terrible right now.
Details gate.
Yeah.
I was watching some of the hits on the ship. Kind of picked my memory a little bit. We had our first XO. His name was he was a captain. He was deep selected for captain. The normal rank for an executive officer, the second in command here, is a commander. It's not normal for the ship to have two captains, two four-stripers. But his name was John J. Chernesky, and everybody called him JJ, or he preferred to call himself Darth Vader. He had a saying. They asked him one time, the media did, XO, well, what would you do if you found out that there was a couple Exocet missiles coming in at your ship? He said, well, first thing I'd do is say, on Iowa, all hands take deep shelter. He goes, then after the missiles hit, I'd pass the word sweepers, man your brooms. He was a badass. I'd see the guy walked around with a 357 in his back pocket. He'd shoot sharks. He was the consummate comedian. I worked the flight deck crew for refueling crew. That was what they call a grape. They needed an electrician on there because it was my job to make sure that the grounding strap was correct. Before you hook up a fueling probe to any kind of a bird that's out there turning, you've got to dissipate the static.
The camera's right here.
No, you got to dissipate the static charge. So it looks almost like a guitar plug. It's about that long and with a cable attached to it, and you plug it in, dissipate the static charge, and then you can hook up your refueling hose to it. We all got to wear these cranials and vests. It's a life vest. It's a CO2 inflated life vest. Well, Captain Chernesky's favorite stint was to walk up to you, grab you by the lanyard, and he'd inflate your CO2 bottle, and you'd blow up, and damn, you gotta go get another one because you're like this and you can't move. It just completely blows up. But yeah, it was a fun of my whole naval career. This was My favorite command. I had very, very good time here. Even after the explosion, it was mostly good time. I was here that day, April 19th. I lost 2 of my electricians that morning. Electricians made third class, Dave Hansen, and electricians made fireman apprentice, Dwayne Battle. That's still one of the hardest days of my life, ever, April 19th. It bothers me. I get a little melancholy. So, but enough of that.
So, where else before Iowa did you serve?
Oh, my first ship was a submarine tender out of San Diego. We really didn't go anywhere. Once a year we'd go up the coast of San Francisco. The next half of the year we'd go down the coast of Mazatlan, Mexico, and then come back. Wasn't too bad. My second ship was a Knox class frigate. Its name was Joseph Hughes. FF 1078 was the hull number. That was home ported in Charleston, South Carolina. It was a little boy. Very, very small ship. In fact, sometimes I was afraid it was going to swamp with the waves we went through on it. Iowa was my third ship. My fourth ship is the USS Cape St. George. It is the only one of the ships that I were on that is still in commission, and it's presently home ported in San Diego, originally home ported in Norfolk. Other than my first tour of duty in San Diego and my shipyard stints down at Pascagoula, Gulf Coast, picking up the Cape St. George and the Iowa, my whole career was spent on the East Coast, either Norfolk, Groton, Connecticut, or Charleston, South Carolina. By far,
Go ahead.
By far, though, the Iowa was my the best command. We were the showboat, Atlantic Fleet. We called ourselves the Beast of the East. We visited ports that some ships only people dreamed about going to. I was actually fortunate. I got to meet the King of Norway in Oslo when we were there. We had Prince Charles of England visited us. The Queen of Denmark visited us. Copenhagen's a great port. Oslo, Norway's a great port. Kiel, Germany's a great port. All in all, I think that my favorite port, though, is Portsmouth, England, because they're our cousins. We get along real good with them. A little hard to understand them sometimes. Especially the folks from Scotland. It's a little bit rough. But we were our first visit over there. We're pulling into Portsmouth, England. We're coming up the channel. It's called the Solent. We're all men in a row. We're in our dress blues, and there's this little elderly couple on a 2-masted sailboat. They come putting past us. Pop, 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 pop. They got it on motor. They took 4 bed sheets, white, sewed them together, and put them up between the masts, and they had written on those bed sheets, said, "Welcome home, Yanks. All is forgiven." Yeah, that was fun. I said, "Yeah, we're gonna have a good time here," and yeah, we did. People treated us really well.
Good.
Even, every port I went through. Now I don't know what it is now. It's been how you figure. It's 18 years since I've been retired, and another 3 years before that. So I guess about 21 years since I've been on a ship, an active ship, hitting an active port. So I can't lay claim to any knowledge of that right now, but every port I hit when I was on the Iowa or the other ships I was on, as Americans, we got treated good. The only place I had a hard time was Paris, France. They're very ignorant. They're Parisians are very uppity people. They don't like themselves, I think. Really, they won't talk to you. I mean, we even had a guy who was a Cajun. He spoke fluent French. All we wanted was directions. Where our bus was. The ship was in Le Havre. We tied up in Le Havre on the English Channel, and we took a bus. The ship organized a tour. We had a bus that went to Paris. We're going to spend a day in Paris. Well, they told us originally where to meet the bus at, but a bunch of young sailors, and we forgot that. So we're, okay, we know where we're going to go, but we don't know where it's at. So we're asking all these people, and they just ignored us. Finally, this little old lady walked up to us and said, where do you want to go? She spoke really good English. And I said, oh, wow, finally a Parisian that's going to help us. She goes, I'm not Parisian. She goes, I'm not even French, I'm Finnish. She goes, don't mind the Parisians, they hate themselves. Okay, take your word for it. Sights were beautiful, but their attitude was bad. Kiel, Germany was interesting. We tied up at the quay where the Bismarck used to tie up. And that's all you saw on the headline of the newspaper. Der Schlachtschiff, the battleship. And it showed up, bing, our picture blasted right on the front page. And I'll tell you what, people came from miles around just to try and get, just not tour the ship, just get a glimpse of it. Because that's like since World War II, it's the first time a major ship was tied up at that pier. It was history making. Germans are good people. Nice. I got invited in. Many of us got invited into homes. Same thing in France, to share dinner, share a meal with families. One of the most interesting places we were at was Istanbul, Turkey. You want to talk about a mix of cultures? On this side of there's a channel that goes through it called the Bosporus. And Istanbul's actually on both sides, with a big bridge that goes across. And it actually spans both continents. You got Asia on one side and you got Europe on the other. The one side is mostly sectarian. It's mixed bag, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jewish. And then on the other side is mostly Muslim. So you could be walking down the street and have various cultures with you, and then all of a sudden you'd hear the imam start calling a prayer to the faithful to prayer from the minarets in the Asiatic side. I'm sorry, the Asiatic side, and then traffic comes to a grinding halt. Everybody gets out, their prayer rugs go on the ground, and they face Mecca and start saying their prayers. So to be non-confrontational, we just picked a place to sit down and be quiet until their prayers were done. Traffic comes with a screeching halt. Traffic don't move till the prayers are done, and then just like nothing ever happened, they roll the prayer rug up, get back in the car, and the horns are honking, and the lights are flashing, and the cops go back to doing what they're doing. A lot of good buys. The Grand Bazaar was really cool. Great buys on gold, jewelry, diamonds, silk carpets. I got it. My house is a smorgasbord of knickknacks and souvenirs. I could take you on a tour of my Portugal. I got this here. I got this here. I got this here. I got vases from Crete. I got a little latex rubber Viking with a big eyeball from Norway. I got a silk prayer rug from Istanbul. I got, oh Lord, it's unbelievable. The stuff that I got.
A little bit of everything, eh?
A little bit of everything. Yeah, like I said, my house is like a museum. And that's not kind of the artifacts I had from the Iowa. Over the years, you're here 5.5 years, you pick things up. I have one of the last brass 5-inch shell casings. Makes a great umbrella stand.
So, what was your favorite port of call, if you even have
favorite? That's a tough one. I would say it would be a tie. I would say Oslo, Norway, and Portsmouth, England will be my two favorite ports. Oslo was great because it's when you go up the fjord to get there. I mean, there's just like mountains and there's trees, and it's a postcard perfect trip. And me being a hunter, I like venison. So if you like venison, you're going to be in hog heaven in Norway, because beef is very, very expensive, because they don't have the arable land, the ground, the grass land to feed cattle. But they have mountains that the reindeer like real good. So their meat staple for the most part is reindeer. So I was eating reindeer, I was drinking beer, I was in hog heaven. Portsmouth, because of the people, were, like I said, I consider the British my cousins.
Right.
And yeah, we may have went toe to toe in 1776 and in 1812, but ever since that point, we've been back to back. Anytime the shit hit the fan, it's been us and the Brits back to back. And I got a lot of good friends still to this day that are former Royal Navy, and I've threw a few drinks down on their ships with them, because their Navy's not dry like ours is.
Right.
Yeah, the Brits still get their totter rum, and I think they get each man gets 4 cans of beer a day.
Well, one of the 3 grand traditions of the Royal Navy, according to Churchill at least. Rum and the other 2 perhaps less appropriate for a public stream, but
okay. You talking about a port in every storm?
rum, buggery, and a lash. Never heard that term?
I know what he's talking about. Well, you know what? There's a lot of truth to what he said, because I wouldn't go so much with the buggery, but let's just say that there's a lot of skirt chasing goes on in foreign ports. But no, the lash. A lot of people don't realize exactly a lot of the common phraseology we use today actually comes from naval terminology. Letting the cat out of the bag. The lash was called the cat of nine tails. So, and the cat of nine tails was kept in a sailcloth bag. So when you let the cat out of the bag, you gotta keep reminding me. I'm used to talking, facing people, so I just gotta keep.
It happens to
Nick,
everyone.
move over and just peek your head above the.
I'm not ignoring you folks out there. It's just that I'm an old school piece of Merida, and I'm used to looking at real live people in the eye. But
If
so
you want, I can try and stand.
no, that's okay. No, so the cat of nine tails. Yeah, you let the cat out of the bag. Son of a gun. In the sailing ship days, sailors were allowed conjugal visits with their spouses. The hammocks were slung between the guns. So, if a child or male child was conceived while slung between the guns, he was called a son of a gun. I'm not going to bore you anymore with that. Oh, God.
So tell us some more about some of the stuff you did while on Iowa.
Well, like I said, I was an electrician, so therefore I'm what they call a snipe. The snipe is the mystical animal that ever lives in the netherworld of the ship, deep down in the bowels. Nobody knows where we are, but they know we're there because the lights are on, the water's made, and the steam is there. So, yeah, we're the guys we were commonly referred to back in the day as the Black Gang, because we were the guys that shoveled the coal into the boilers. So coal dust, you got pretty grody. But now, the old saying holds true: if the snipes don't groove, the ship don't move. I don't care what the mission of the ship is. If we don't do our thing, we don't go nowhere. And going places was what we did well. We very strong power plant down there. 4 main engines, 53,000 horsepower apiece. Total of 12,000 shaft horsepower. That's enough to drive the vessel through the water. By the book, they say 33 plus knots. But I'm here to tell you, and I'm going to look you in the eye when I say this, right hand up to God, 36 and a half knots was registered. And we weren't even wide open. The chief engineer he got a little cautious. He told us, we got a 50-year-old lady here, guys. Let's not push her too hard. That was probably 1987 that we did that, 87 or 88. We had the capacity to make 100,000 gallons of fresh water a day. Unfortunately, we had 8 boilers who got very thirsty. So they got priority on the water, then medical, then the galley, and then us, the rest of the crew. So if one of the evaporators wasn't working right, guess who went on water hours and you couldn't take showers? That ain't fun. 2.5 million gallons of fuel oil is what we carried. The boilers got really thirsty with fuel oil also. We could do up to 25 knots on 4 boilers. Anything above 25 knots, you had to go all 8 boiler operation, which life began to suck for the boiler technicians at that point because there was no time off. There wasn't enough BTs, boiler technicians, to man 2 shifts. So you were, as long as you were on 8 boiler ops, those guys were down there until we were done. At that speed, each boiler burned 10,000 gallons an hour.
Wow.
Talk about your not so fuel economy.
Yeah.
So you went on Iowa, you said 83, right?
I first set foot on Iowa December 29th, 1983.
Sure.
Pascagoula, Mississippi.
So you're one of the commissioning crew.
Yes, I'm actually pre-commissioning. I was one of the core crew that got here. In fact, myself, Commander Martin, he was the ops boss. PN1 Mason, BM2 Freeman, MS2 De Palma. He was cookie. He was a night baker. The man had the market cornered on hot Danish. But yeah, there was probably about maybe 20, 25 of us. We were pretty much the core crew, and we got things set up down in Pascagoula for the rest of the guys coming in. I stayed on board until June 5th, 1989. The ship left on its final deployment June 7th of 89, I believe. And I believe they got back December 12th from that. I loved the ship. I would have stayed longer. Unfortunately, the explosion, it took a lot of wind out of my sails. I felt that I had to go someplace and just kind of decompress someplace quiet.
Yeah.
So a friend of mine who commissioned the ship with me, his name was Mike Santa Maria. He was first class when he got here. He became my detailer in Washington. Those are the guys that tell you where you're going to go next. He wound up retiring as a Master Chief Electrician. Mike sent me to Groton, Connecticut for 3 years. Very nice tour duty. In fact, I met my wife up there.
Oh, very good.
We'll be married 25 years, March 25th.
Nice.
Yeah, she was an electrician on a tugboat, and I was running the bad boy farm. It was called the Correctional Custody Unit, CCU. Those are no longer in existence because the Navy doesn't tolerate anything anymore. You do something wrong, they put you out. It's pretty much the way it goes. But like I said, I spent 3 years there, and then I left Groton, Connecticut, and I took orders. I guess I was a glutton for punishment for pre-com. I took pre-com Cape St. George and back to Pascagoula, Mississippi again. So at the time, she was my future wife. We were just engaged. She accompanied me down to Pascagoula, and we wound up getting married in Pascagoula in 1993. It was kind of homey. Was a down home, basically country wedding.
Nice.
We got married in the house that we lived in. We moved everything out of the dining room. Our neighbors across the street, Mike Bird, he was at the time, he was the police chief of Goshen, Mississippi. His wife was a school administrator. His cousin was a judge. So Mike was my best man. His wife was my wife's maid of honor. And his cousin married us.
A true Mississippi wedding, then.
Yep. No shotguns involved, though.
Okay, better than a true Mississippi wedding.
It was I'll tell you what though, if you like to eat, Gulf Coast, way to go. I mean, if you like good Southern cooking, if you ever get a chance to visit the shipyards down in Pascagoula or anywhere along the Gulf Coast, the food is excellent. Excellent.
Nice.
That's why I married a Southern girl. I get all that good food. My wife's from Texas originally.
Ah.
Ashley, she's Texas by retirement. She was actually born at Lemoore Naval Air Station out here in California. Her dad was a Navy Airedale. He was one of the last guys that was allowed to fly rather than just taxi.
Mm-hmm.
So when he retired from the Navy, they set up shop in Texas. So that's why she calls herself a Texan, but she's actually a born Californian. Her social security number attests to that.
Does she like being reminded of that, or not at all?
She calls herself a Texan.
Got it.
Yeah, she calls herself a Texan. She calls herself a Texan. Mainly because even though she was born here, she wasn't here long.
Right.
Shortly after she was born, I guess she was only like a year and a half old, he got orders to Italy. So they packed everybody up and moved to Italy. Naples. There's an air base just north of Naples called Capodichino. I've been there a couple times. Off the beaten path. It's away from everything. But my mother-in-law is the kind of person, she tried to educate her kids in other cultures. So where there is an American compound in Naples, where most of the Americans live, it's kind of like Olympic Village.
Right.
Okay. Mom wasn't into that. They lived out in town. She immersed her kids in the Italian culture. So consequently, my wife actually learned how to speak a little Italian before she learned how to speak English.
Nice. So what did you do after that? Or after...
After the Navy?
Yes.
I retired in 1999 from... I was in Norfolk, Virginia. Highly upset my son. Daughter wasn't around yet. That's another story. My wife informed me a couple of months before I was getting ready to... no. I'm pregnant. Again? Damn. I'm getting ready to retire. Like I said, that's another story. Navy covered it, but yeah. Our son was born in Norfolk General. I'm sorry, Virginia Beach General. Both our kids were born in Virginia Beach General. Same day. Same month.
It's kind of crazy.
Same floor. Same wing. Crossed hall from each other. 6 years, 12 hours, and 6 minutes apart. Daniel was born at 4:20 in the morning, and Kara was born at 4:26 in the afternoon. Daniel 1993, Kara 1999. Veterans Day.
Hey.
That's it. Tell me I'm not patriotic, huh? Both my kids were born Veterans Day. Well, if you count back 9 months, it comes roughly around February 21st. That's my birthday, and it's usually when the ship got back from a deployment. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Homecoming. Yeah. Oh, God.
And we just lost about 4 viewers, but anyway. So what did you do after you retired from the Navy?
After I retired, my wife didn't want to stay in Virginia because I could have stayed, but it would have cost us a ton of money. The state of Virginia, the lovely state of Virginia, would have taxed my pension, and they also would have taxed me every year for my vehicle. So Pennsylvania, my home state. I'm from Pittsburgh, by the way. Go Steelers! Patriots! Pennsylvania doesn't tax military pension. So we moved to Pennsylvania. I rented a house off my mother and dad. Rent was cheaper. Grandma and Grandpa were there to watch the kids. And I basically fell into the job that I do right now. I'm I'm an electrical field engineer for Eaton Corporation.
All right.
I check transformers. I do oil abatement. I test circuit breakers. And matter of fact, I'm also a certified infrared technician, of which periodically I will bring the camera out here with me and do the ship.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a nice $4,000 savings for them. My company says, no, they're very, very... Eaton Corporation is very, very veteran-oriented. We try to hire the vets as much as possible, and within reason, anything to support veterans' causes, they're all for it. So to let me bring the camera out here with me and ship it back, they have no problem with that.
Good.
I'm all the happier to do it because this is my ship. I still can claim ownership on it. I can do that since I put her into commission. I'm more than happy to do it to make sure everything's fine.
Good.
But yeah, I've been working for Eaton for 18 years now. Still enjoy it. They still give me my time off where I can afford to come here for 10 days every year. As a matter of fact, I just found out this year that they're going to knock 4 days off of my stay and chalk it up to community involvements. The ship is a non-profit.
Oh.
So they're considering my time working out here, 4 days of it anyway, to be community oriented.
Nice.
So that's 4 days vacation I get to keep, which I'm going to need them because my wife and I have to go to Baltimore. My wife is a breast cancer survivor. She needs a little bit more reconstructive work done in the doctors in Baltimore.
All right.
So we'll be going there probably within the next couple of months.
Cool. And obviously, you heard that the ship was being made a museum.
Yeah, I was
that?
involved. I was very heavily involved in that. The former CEO of PBC, his name was Robert Kent. I'm sure you guys heard of him.
Mm-hmm.
He came to one of the Iowa Veterans Association's reunion, and at the end of his speech, telling us what his vision was and what his plans and PBC's plans were for the ship, he invited all the any engineer from the 1980s to stick around in the room with him. He wanted to talk to us. So after everybody else was gone, it was just us, closed door session. He went around the room and told me who you are, what your rate was, and how long you were on a ship. So he gets to me. Marty Palmiere, electrician's mate, 1983 to 1989. And he shook his head. He says, "Would you please repeat that?" I says, "What part?" He goes, "The years." I says, 1983 to 1989. He said, "Somebody not like you? They kept you here for 5.5 years?" I says, "No, and that was done." All right, hey, that's not right.
I
That's
got
okay.
it.
I'm only kidding you. So he said, "Somebody not like you?" I says, "No, it's not what it seems." Because the ship was unique, because they married 1980s technology with 1940s technology. They tried to keep a few plank owners from the commissioning crew from each division here to train the younger guys and newer guys coming in, because there's some stuff here that's really, really hinky. I mean, especially in the electrical plant. It was pretty crazy. So yeah, I was a lot of longevity here. So Robert Kent said to me, he goes, you're going to be getting a phone call from somebody. Is that okay? I said, sure. And he put me in contact with Mike Getcher. Mike was his engineer at the time. So Mike calls me. Unfortunately, I couldn't make the trip from Suisun Bay to where they tied up for the night, just under the underside of the bridge. I was originally supposed to be on that ride with them guys because I was going to help them get anchor windlass running because they needed to do it for ship checks. I couldn't be here because I couldn't get time off of work. I had the money. It was just time from work. At that time I had already used my vacation time up. So I put them in contact with Pat Patnote. Have you ever met him?
No.
Bosun lives in Stockton. So Stockton wasn't far from Benicia. So Pat drove down, got on the ship, and he was the ship's boatswain. He was the warrant officer. He knew that deck gear backwards, forward, and side. And Pat stepped in, took over. They got the anchor windlass gear running. So I made the trip up. Mike Getcher wanted to get me. He was calling me. Was it email tag, text message tag, phone tag? It didn't matter, day or night. They had an electrical problem. They called me on the phone. So finally, Mike says, "You know what? Like we can't meet like we can't go on like this." He goes, "I got to get you out of here." And I says, "I got the time." I says, "I'm a little short on cash right now." He goes, "Don't worry about that." He goes, "Make your plane reservations." He goes, "Put it on a credit card. I'll reimburse your credit card." Okay, no problem. Flew into San Francisco. He picked me up at the airport. We got to the ship. First day I got here, took him. We went down the engine room together, and I was just snooping around, looking at things. Each switchboard has a box down there that's got it's almost like Formica, laminated placards, and it's the main wiring diagrams for where the main breakers and stuff go for the switchboards. So I'm opening the box up. I'm pulling them up because when we were here, we'd write little notes to each other on the back of the stuff in pencil. Mm-hmm. You'd erase it and you put another one on there. So since I left the ship June of '89 and the ship was decommissioned in October of '90, I had that time. I want to see what people wrote. Right. So I start pulling the placards out to look, and he goes, "What are those?" So I laid them all out on the transformer bank down there. He goes, "Oh my God! How long have they been there? Since 1942?
Wow.
He says, "That long?" He says, "I didn't know they were there." I said, "Well, if you had no need to know, you would never know, because it was a very unobtrusive box with a flip lid on it." He goes, "Are these on each switchboard?" "Yep, each switchboard got a set." He says, "You know what? Just by you showing me these," he goes, "that justified paying to get you out here." And I just, for the rest of the time, we were, Jonathan, me, Mike, Dave Canfield wasn't really involved yet. Ken Labruzzi's predecessor's name was Dan Pulowski. Me and Mr. Pulowski got along real good. And we'd all make the tiki bar run here periodically up there. So, and I was invited. Mike Getcher wanted me to. We were actually supposed to ride the ship down from San Francisco on the tow to L.A., but the Navy wouldn't allow it. They said and I can understand their reasoning. Their reasoning was there's no firefighting methods on the ship because all the fire main pumps were all shut down, and there was no. If the ship caught fire, there was no way to fight it. My reasoning was that I told Mike, I says, we need somebody on board to sound the tanks as we're cruising. There's no way you want to get out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean and lose the ship to a flooding tank.
Right.
Because you uncontrolled flooding and you didn't know what was happening. So when you sound the tanks, you know there's water coming in. Long story short, they wouldn't let us. Okay, Mike and I drove down from San Francisco in his truck, and I stayed at his house for a day and a half, and he took me over to LAX, got on a plane, went back to Pittsburgh. That was May and June of 2012. We came out again for the rededication in July. My whole family and I, we drove out. And I've been here every February ever since.
Nice.
And I plan on coming out every February until A, they don't want me anymore, or B, I can't physically handle it. But to me, it's a labor of love. I come here every year to help make the ship a better experience for everybody. Bring more things to life. Just came down off the mast with George to get the aircraft warning lights back up and running. Eventually, George and I want to get all the navigational lights up on top of the pole and up on top of the mast running. Task lights, aircraft warning lights are going to work. We'll get the helo homing beacon going. Masthead light, range light, yard arm blinkers. Those are always fun.
It'd be nice to get all that stuff running.
Yeah, you can drive people nuts with the yard arm blinkers. A lot of people don't know this. Right, the signal bridge, there's a box on each side, and it's got a cover on it. You flip the cover, and it's got a Morse code key in it. Mm-hmm. Well, if you turn the switch on the pilot house to a certain position, there's 2 big white lights that come up on each yard arm, and you sit there with that key, and those lights will flash Morse code. Those are the forward ones. On the aft yard arms are the infrared blinkers.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see them unless you got infrared capable glasses on, opticals. Yeah, I could actually. We could sit here and drive people nuts in the harbor.
We got a comment that sounds like it would be amazing to see.
Yeah, see, when you're at sea on a naval vessel, it's not like the Love Boat. You know, you can see a cruise liner miles away. It's just this big white thing that moves across the horizon. Naval vessel, when you're at sea, there's only 5 lights that are on. Stern light, port and starboard running light, masthead light, and the range light. And that's it. Everything else is on darkened ship. When you open up a door, it actually activates a switch and turns the lights off in that portion of the P-way. At night, all the lights go from white to red, or if you're in CEC or CIC, they go to blue because of the screens. If you got red lights on in the overhead, it really messes with your vision of the visual screens because they had the orange tint to them back then.
Right.
And it just played havoc. So they used blue lights, and the blue lights was to help you accustom to the computers, your screens, and get you out of the white lights so your eyes could accustom to the dark.
Nice.
But yeah, I'm disappointed I didn't get a chance to ride it down on the tow, but I did get to ride the tow coming from Richmond almost to the Golden Gate Bridge. So
nice.
Once again, I got underway on the battleship again. That was so cool. In fact, have you guys met Kurt Vandermeulen? Ship's photographer, ship's videographer?
No.
He rigged up a camera up on the 011 fire control tower, and as we were getting ready to come, we were coming down the bay heading for the Golden Gate Bridge. I actually walked up in front of turret 1, and I waved to my wife and kids. They were watching this live stream on a computer at home. There's Dad underway.
Nice.
My son said, "Look at that grin." You're damn right. Look at that grin. I had a beaming grin from ear to ear. A lot of guys that did what I did and spent as much time in the service in the Navy that I did never get that chance. Once the ship's decommissioned, you never get a chance to do that again, to ride it one more time. So I can check that off the bucket list.
Good. One last time, haze gray and underway.
Haze gray and underway. It may have been under tow, but that don't bother me at all. It was just kind of eerie being quiet because you have a live warship. It's it's very much alive. And it may sound kind of corny to say that, but there's a thrum with the engines. You feel the vibration throughout the ship with all the ventilation motors running, and the smell of cooking, the oils. It's just it's a life experience. The ship's alive.
Nice.
And when you can walk out to the tail end of the ship and you're doing 36 knots and almost reach across the lifeline and put your hand in the rooster tail, that tells you that you're on something that's a powerful entity. 36 and a half knots, 58,000 tons moving through the water.
Wow.
At 36 and a half knots, don't get in my way. Because it takes me 6 miles to slow these beasts down. Man. Yeah, hold on. This is what happens when you get the gift of gab.
Hey, no problem.
Oh, no, that wasn't nice.
I'm down.
That's okay.
Don't worry, it was Missouri.
Oh, okay. We call it the misery.
Well, Well, that sucks. Server is going down for maintenance.
Nice. Well,
We done?
Let's see if we can reconnect or not.
Well, that's okay. I was going to insult to Wisconsin.
Well, we can continue talking. That's fine. We don't need to have the game going, but up to you on whatever time you have.
The Wisconsin, I can't remember if she was the last one or the second last one that they pulled out. What do I? Jersey was first, then us. Yeah, then I think Missouri, then Wisconsin.
I think so too. Yeah.
So anyway, we were down in the Caribbean doing operations, and we were on our way home.
Mm-hmm.
They were towing the Wisconsin south from Philadelphia down to Pascagoula to the shipyards again. So Captain Sequist was our captain, and he decided we're going to shadow. So we came up on the Wisconsin side, and we paced her with the tugboat towing her, so our signal went up in blast. They're up there with the signal lights, and they're talking to the damn tugboat. And they actually had riders on the Wisconsin and under tow down there, so we put searchlights on the ship, and when, of course, the signal, and they're talking to these guys out there, you know. I thought they were going to take off, flapping their arms. So, yeah, we actually shadowed them for a while. And then, you know, time to go. They're going down south. We turned around, come back, headed back to Norfolk. So they got commissioned, and they came back in. They tied right up alongside the pier with us in Norfolk, Pier 12.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, there's only 12 piers. Now there's 14. Gives you an idea about how many carriers and shit they got in there now. Norfolk, Virginia is the world's largest naval station. I don't care what San Diego tells you guys. So they were pierside. One of the qualifications for electrician to be the duty electrician, in other words, you're like you guys are here right now, and like when everybody goes home at night, there's usually one or two of us that hang around.
Right.
Well, on a warship, when you're in port, you have the duty section that takes over at the end of the working day. They have to be fully capable of getting the ship ready to go to sea.
Yeah.
So by the time the rest of the crew on the recall gets their butts back to the ship, she's pretty much ready to go.
Right.
Okay, boiler's got steam up. As a matter of fact, not just having steam up, the ship is really on ship's power already. The duty electrician needs to be able to shift the ship from shore power to ship's power. Now, with the new gas turbine ships, that's not a difficult task. On this thing, it was. I had duty. The MPA had duty. The MPA is the assistant engineer. He's the main propulsion assistant.
Okay.
So I hear we're watching a movie. Okay? You got nothing to do in port except eat, watch movies, read, and if you get a trouble call, you take care of the trouble call. Do you electrician? Log room. Now what? So I go, and I figured I dipped Copenhagen very copiously at that time. So did the MPA, and he was a mooch. I figured he wanted to mooch a chew because he knew I was in his duty section with him. So I'm walking up the P-way, whap, bap, 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 bap. I'm tapping the can down a while. I walk in the log room door. I stuck my can out to him. He goes, "No, EM on." He goes, "That's not it." He goes, "But I will take a dip off you." He's from Arkansas. He's a good old boy. He says, "Son," very dramatic, "you and I have to walk across the pier to that other battleship." He wouldn't mention it by name. And I'm like, "What's wrong?" He says, "I know you're not going to believe me." He goes, "But I'm going to tell you anyway." He goes, "You, my man, are going to either show or shift their ship from shore power to ship's power because their duty electrician does not know how to do it." Okay. So we walked across the pier. We got a lieutenant commander, me. I'm EM1. I got 3 stripes, first class petty officer. Their electrician was first class petty officer, and I really felt bad for this dude. I mean, because their chief engineer is standing there, and he's breathing fire, and there's smoke coming out of his ears. Okay, that this kid can't do. And just the height of embarrassment, they had to call that other battleship to come over here and get them on ship's power.
They had to call the big sister.
Yeah, so I got him in front of the switchboard. I said, just calm down. Just don't worry about it. Just disregard what they're doing. I says, do you want me to walk you through it, or do you want me to do it? He goes, time is of the essence right now. He goes, let's just get her on ship's power. He goes, and we can discuss this later. He goes, I will be watching you very, very intently. Okay, not a problem. So I started. Turned the sinker scope on, watching the generator. Start change the speed of the generator, I got it adjusted. The thing, it looks like a clock. It's called a sinker scope. Okay. And it speeds up or slows down based on the speed of the generator. And you control the speed of the generator with a little spring-loaded handle called a throttle control. Lash-it governor. Back or forth. When you see me do this, that's what I'm talking about. Adjusting the speed. You want to get it going in a clockwise rotation at a comfortable speed. To me, the comfortable speed is like this. At 5 minutes to 12, you hit the circuit breaker handle. It energizes a motor, a DC motor. The motor turns. It charges these 2 fucking humongous springs that are in this breaker. And then by the time that needle gets to midnight, wham! That breaker slams shut, and you are now on ship's power. And you adjust the load. So I did that. I got everything going. The sinker scope's going like this. And I'm talking to the electrician, trying to reassure him. Okay, here's what you do. Here's what you want to do. Okay, you want to check your voltage over here. And right about this time, this chief engineer goes. He's talking to my MPA behind me. He goes, "Are you sure he knows what he's doing?" And I heard this. So right about that time, I'm going, "You ignorant motherfucker! I'm here to do you a favor." And I went, wham! And I hit it. And I says, "Yes, I know exactly what the fuck I'm doing." And the MPA's like, "Oh!" You could see this fucking Woody just come up, and he just got this grin, and he's sitting there sucking on his tobacco, going, "Oh yeah." You could just see the look on his face. He was loving this. So we wrapped up the meters, got everything going. I says, "Okay, all you got to do is go back aft on 3-board and do the very same thing I did, except you're going to do it with the generator back aft." And he did it. He wound up doing it. So we're walking back across the pier, and the MPA is going, "God, I got a fucking hard on when you did that. God damn it, Palmiere, Jesus Christ, man." He goes, "God, that was so fucking great." He goes, "I thought he was going to shit himself when you hit that." Oh, God. Yeah, that other battleship. They're sitting where we should be right now. Nothing against San Pedro, but the Iowa is an East Coast ship. The New Jersey was a West Coast ship. How we wound up being swapped has to do with a convict. He used to be a senator for the great state of New Jersey. His name is Frank Torricelli. He got caught with his fingers in some pie that he wasn't supposed to have them in, and he got convicted, and they sent him to prison. But before they did that, they wanted the New Jersey for a museum, like we are. Problem with that was New Jersey was not, well, at the time, since they closed Long Beach, they moved her, I don't know if they moved her, okay, I think she was in mothball in Long Beach. They were getting ready to close Long Beach Naval Station, so they had to get her out of there. Mm-hmm. So rather than take her up to San Francisco, they engineered this swap. And they did a swap between the Iowa, and they called it the 1-for-1. If we give you one from the West Coast, you got to give us one from the East Coast. So it was a toss-up between us and Wisconsin. So guess who got the flip? Guess who lost the flip of the coin? So they took the Iowa down through the Panama Canal, and basically we crossed paths just on the western side of the Panama Canal. New Jersey went east, Iowa came west, and went up to Benicia. That's how the Iowa got out here. That's also how she got destroyed. The mast, anyways. Because couldn't fit under the bridge. So they had to cut the top of the mast off. The whole platform right above, you know where the fire control tower is? Mm-hmm. They cut the mast off just above the fire control tower. That's the only one making it under the bridge. And at that point, you got to go. You have to go under. It's a dancing act. You've got to go under at high tide, but you've got to stay in a channel, because if you don't stay in a channel, you're going to hit the bridge. It's a height and depth issue.
Right.
This ship, thank God it's empty, because at a full load, we drew 38 feet of water.
Right.
There's 38 feet of ship in the water. But, yeah, so they had to cut the mast off and stick it out on the flight deck to get it under Benicia. That didn't happen in New Jersey because she didn't have to go that way. They took her right out of Long Beach and took her down and over. They're not doing too good out there. Their museum's not doing well. Mainly because they pay people an exorbitant amount of money to work there, and it's in a very obscure place. It's hard to get to, and if you're not paying attention on the road coming to it,
right,
you miss the exit and you wind up on the Ben Franklin Bridge, and it's going to cost you $10 to go from New Jersey to Pennsylvania, and it's going to cost you another $10 to turn around and go back.
Yeah.
There's your ticket money.
Yeah, really. The bad part about it was the Iowa being the last battleship out of mothball status in the museum status. Everybody else before us raped us. The gun bloomers were gone. The trick wheels down in aft steering are gone. The ship's helm's missing. There's all kind of stuff missing. Personally, I don't think the Iowa was going to be... The Navy did not want the Iowa to be where it is right now. And it was only because of congressional pull. Brian Moss got that ball rolling, God rest his soul. He's the one that put the bug in Robert Kent's ear to go after the Iowa instead of another carrier. Robert Kent was going to go after a carrier and bring it here. And Brian says, hey, why not go after the Iowa? Well, the group in San Francisco thought they had a lock on it. And they weren't raising any funds. 15 years they weren't raising any funds.
Yeah.
So that's what Brian they said. Hey, look, they haven't made no progress. So finally the Navy said, yeah, okay, fine. Let's put it up for bid again. PBC got the bid. Here we are. Yeah. So, like I said, I would prefer to have her a little closer. But I'm just glad she's saved.
Yeah.
Some of the guys that I work with here, they're upset of all the modifications going on within the ship. I'm not. The ship as a whole is saved. It's got to make money to survive.
Right.
So if you can make the experience of coming here and make people want to come here and see Bob Ballard's stuff,
yeah,
I'm all for it. Yeah, but they ripped out your rack. I ain't never going to sleep in that fucking rack again. What the hell do I need it for? I'm just happy the ship is here.
Amen.
Jonathan Williams and I are good friends. He enjoys my company when I come out here. I give him hell, I razz him, and he throws it right back. You can't do that with a lot of CEOs.
Right.
Mike Getcher, he and I are tight. Hell, man, we lived in San Francisco together. That was rough. I mean, no, I'm serious. I'm talking about 3-4 days without a shower. Up in San Francisco was rough. We were living in our coveralls, dirty, oily. There was a marina that gave us their key to go down to the marina, and we would use their showers down there. But it was quite a distance away. It wasn't, like right around the bend. I mean, right here, we were doing that here until we got the showers operational.
Right.
We were going down to the marina. Hell, I could walk down there. But why walk when you got the bicycle, right?
So, one question I had, just like in general, with the battleship having so many sailors aboard, how well did everyone know each other? Did you know everyone on the ship? You only knew people
Oh
in
no,
your...
hell no. Could not, I would. If I told you that I knew everybody on the ship, my nose would grow all the way out to touch that damn box over there. I'll become a Pinocchio. There's, you get to know the ones you're closest to, job wise, and sphere of influence the most. So I got to know the engineers mostly. But we also worked very, very closely with the bosun's mates because a lot of our gear was out on... Like, electricians get to work with everybody.
Right.
Because our gear's everywhere. It's all throughout the ship. So, if you got a fan coil unit in the berthing compartment, we'll get to know those people. The signalman. The telltale lights and stuff up on the bridge. So you get to, you get around. I would say that I probably knew about half.
Okay.
Or knew of. I was acquainted with half the crew out of 1,500 people.
Pretty good.
And you also stay in your age bracket a lot. I mean, you got. It's like any generation. You got the young kids. They're into their own thing.
Right.
When I got here, I was already seasoned, so I guess I was 26 years old when I got here.
You doing okay, Danny?
Yeah. I was like, where's control? Oh, you gonna die right now?
Did I speak too soon?
Huh?
Did I ask
I'm
you
good.
Phew.
Oh, you don't want to fire turret 3 at that angle.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's one of the other things the game does for balance purposes.
They did that in the 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Did you hear the story about the
No.
about the basketball hoop?
Why don't you tell us that story?
Have you noticed the basketball hoop backboard?
Mm-hmm.
It ain't a regulation basketball backboard. Far from it.
Ooh.
In fact, it's armor plated backboard. And the reason for that is the original backboard was your standard fiberglass, kind of like half shell type looking thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they decided they were going to do overpressure checks with the turrets. And they swung turret 3 around like that and fired it. Well, you see that left gun? Rather close to the superstructure, right? Well, it melted the net. It blew all the fiberglass off, so all you saw was ribs. It bent the fucking hoop. It was bad. All the block and tackle on the refueling the sea winch, it knocked the catwalks off. It dropped a couple of blocks. And that was just a shock wave.
Right.
It did it. So, and the officer's motor launched. The windows blew out and the horn relay fucked up. So all you heard was, we had to do that every time we were doing a gun shoot. We had to disconnect the captain's gig battery and the other boat battery. But yeah, the basketball hoop got really obliterated. So they got the HTs to make the damn backboard. I don't know where they got some port we went into. Somebody bought a basketball hoop, put it up there. But yeah, that's why the basketball backboard is the way it is right now. And it was not uncommon. You're steaming, all of a sudden you hear ball overboard, ball overboard, ball overboard, starboard side, aft, away to duty lifeboat. So they'd slow the ship down, put the boat in the water, go out and pick up the basketball, and come back. Then somebody got wise and like they got the stanchions on the rail for the canopies,
Mm-hmm.
for the awnings. They made them back there and put a net so the ball wouldn't go over the side.
So they actually would stop to pick up the basketball.
Oh yeah, they'd go get the basketball.
Okay. It's actually something I need to revise because I've been telling the kids all the time, hey, would they stop if the basketball went over? No.
Well, it wouldn't stop all. If we weren't going someplace on a purpose,
Okay.
we'd stop. We'd slow the ship down, put the motor whaleboat where the boat davits are, they were stacked.
Okay.
Where the officer's motor launch is right now, that was there. Hanging above it on that davit was a whaleboat, a motor whaleboat. So you'd get the guys in the boat, get the engine started, hit the gravity fall, and the thing would lean, and then the boat would go in the water. Okay. You had to have the motor running to match the speed with the ship. Otherwise, if you got to the water and your motor wasn't running, the boat would get dragged backwards. Follow me? Mm-hmm. So if the ship's going 5 knots, you got to have the propeller turn when you hit the water, so you keep up.
Right.
Then they drop the damn cables off, and we just leave everything down.
Okay.
Then you go pick up the damn boat, and they can motor back up. So the coxswain's keeping it right there, and the other guys, they connect up the cables, thumbs up, winch them up, got it up, shut the motor off, back into the state again.
Okay.
To put the rest of the boats in the water, you drop the gravity fall, put the boat in the water, pick the gravity fall back up, reattach the cables to the boat underneath it, pick the boat up out of the skids, fall it over the side, and put it in the water.
Makes sense.
And the other boats back aft, we had 2 more 40-foot boats on a double roller skid. They were stacked one on top of the other, and they would use the boat winch, the big boat boom, over on the port side aft. Cur 3, that big boom that sits there, that's a boat boom.
Oh, I thought it was a refueling boom.
No, that's on the starboard side.
Refueling starboard, okay.
Yeah, it's over here. That's the fast winch. It looks like this.
Right.
The boat boom is like this, and you can pick it up or down.
Okay.
It's the round pole that's stowed above the Coke machine.
So the big pole is the boat boom. The thing that looks like the diving board is the refueling.
Refueling.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the fast boom was for sending fuel to our escorts.
Okay.
We didn't take fuel on there. You sent it.
Right.
We would fuel our escorts. We had 4 refueling stations where we took fuel. 2 on the port side, 2 on the starboard side. One forward on each side, 1 aft. And that's one that was like a big spittoon.
Okay.
Like a big cup. And they would be rigged up on it's basically kind of like a tripod. And it would hold the thing here with the hose hooked up to it to go to those big pipes that run along the side of the ship. Would hook up. When the oiler would send you the messenger line and the tension line, there's a pelican hook on that receiver. You would hook the U-bolt there with the pelican hook on it. Once you cinched that, you gave them the tension symbol. They pulled that wire, and it would pick that receiver up to line perfectly with their probe coming in. So the probe would come over from the oiler, hook up, and you had 2 red flags would pop up and tell you were connected. Once that was done, you'd lash it into place with a line. You'd open the valve and spin your arm like this, and they'd start pumping.
Okay.
We could take on probably 100,000 gallons in about 5 hours.
It's a decent rate.
We carry 2.5 million. Our fuel capacity is 2.5 million.
Right.
Sea captains, as a rule of thumb, do not like to get below 50%.
Yeah.
So they start getting close to 50%. They start getting that. They start getting that antsy itch, and start looking for an oiler. Well, hope I didn't bore you guys at all.
No, pleasure, and thank you for joining us today, and thank you for our people from the chatter saying thank you for helping us save the Iowa.
How's the replies coming?
They're pretty good.
Bad, good, negative.
People are positive, and we actually didn't have too big a chat because I think they were so fascinated listening to your stories.
Oh. Alright, well.
Which is always a...
Alright, talking about stories, I got a good one for you.
Go in front of the camera.
No. This is just...
Okay, let me end it then.
Okay.
Alright, thanks for watching, guys.
It's not bad.
You're gonna...
Okay,
well, have you...
It's not bad. It's just... I'm gonna use a 4-letter word, but it's a common one.
Alright.
It's not bad. Who out there knows the difference between a sea story and a fairy tale? It's easy. Fairy tale starts out once upon a time. Sea story starts out, this ain't no shit. That's it. Just a little Just a little thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this ain't no shit.
So,
if you hear a sailor talking, he goes, "Hey, this is a no shitter," then it's like, get your shovels out. Here it comes.
All right. Well, thanks for being here, Marty.
Not a problem.
We'll
guys.
definitely have you again next year.
Well,
when you're here again.
if you want to talk to me anymore, I'm here till the 26th.
All right.
all right.
Okay, guys.
Take
it
care.
easy. Thanks for the time. I appreciate
All
it.
right.
Hey, our
It
pleasure.
was fun.
Thanks everyone for watching as usual, and we'll be back next Saturday, if not earlier, if we find somebody else that wants to sit down and chat with us.
Mm-hmm.
But thanks everyone.
And hope you all have a great rest of the day. We'll see you next time.